I mean, it's not coming out of thin air. The government doesn't have any money. The only money the government gives to Wall Street, or the only money the government gives to anybody, is money they take from someplace else. So if you want to know, you want to go to your bank and you can't get a loan, you know that's why. Because the money's at Goldman Sachs, or the money's being used to finance a $1.5 trillion budget deficit, or the money's being used to subsidize somebody's mortgage or somebody's student loan. It's not there for business. Did I answer your question?
I think you heard you speak before. You brought up student loans. What are your thoughts on subsidizing student loans?
I think it's a mistake. I think it's one of the reasons that we should get rid of the Department of Education. Because, see, the problem is student loans are the reason that college is so expensive. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for student loans, tuitions would be falling every year, not rising. Just like other products. I mean, education is not exempt from market forces. Normally, in a free market economy, prices come down because you develop, businesses find more efficient ways of distributing their products. And certainly you start using technology, you get economies of scale. Certainly, a lot more kids are in colleges today than 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. So if I'm a professor and I'm lecturing to 1,000 kids, it should be a lot cheaper per kid than when I'm lecturing to 100. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that college tuitions are going like this. And in fact, if you go back in time to before the government was involved in student loans, they didn't go up. College tuitions, were low and they stayed low. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. My father went to the University of Connecticut. His parents had no money to pay for his education, and there were no loans available. But he went to college. He graduated without any debt. How did he do that? He took a job as a waiter in the summer. That's all he needed. Working 2 or 3 months a year, and that was it. That covered tuition, it covered room, it covered board. It was fine. That's all he needed. But what happens is these politicians try to get the votes of students. So they say, hey, we're going to give you loans, subsidized loans, so you can go to college. Okay, the students think it's great. Then the colleges say, oh, you guys got these subsidized loans. Fine, we're going to raise our tuition. And so tuitions go up every year, and the government keeps guaranteeing loans so students can pay those tuitions no matter how high they go. So now, nobody, unless you're, really wealthy, most people can't go to college unless they get a loan because the prices are so high. Well, what would happen if you couldn't get a loan? If nobody can get a loan? The only reason that students can borrow money is because the government guarantees it. If the government guaranteed, the banks wouldn't lend because it would be too risky, or the interest rates would be so high that nobody would borrow. So if the government just said, we're not guaranteeing any more loans, done, it's over, what would happen? Well, nobody could afford college tuition. So the colleges would do exactly what the airlines do when there's no one flying. They cut prices. They have a sale, right? They lower the tuition until somebody bites. They got an empty classroom. They got to put butts in the seats. What do we do? And even if they start losing money initially, they're getting zero revenue from an empty seat. They need revenue. They will slash prices. Look, this last in 2008, it was a huge economic downturn. Prices for everything, all these sales, everything was going down. But tuitions went up. And then you just raise the tuitions again. How can this be? It's because of the government loans. So if you ended it, the colleges would slash their prices. And now the universities would say, you know what, we're not making any money anymore because we had to cut tuitions from $15,000 a year to $2,000 a year. So now we're losing money. What are we going to do? All right, well, they're going to go through the budget and they're going to say, we don't need this guy, we don't need this guy. Let's sell off our gymnasium. Let's call for professors. You're all getting 50% salary cuts because we can't afford you. And you know what? They'll have to take it because all the universities all throughout the country are going to be making the same cuts. And there's probably all sorts of bloated bureaucracies in there, that guys don't even need. But right now there is no market forces because they can simply raise their tuitions every year and they always get it. Why do they get it? Because the government supplies the money to the kids. Meanwhile, do the kids benefit? No. The kids are stuck with all these loans. They graduate college and they're massively in debt. The beneficiaries of the student loan programs are the universities and the colleges who got to charge much higher tuitions than they would have been able to charge without those loans. But all the politicians in Washington don't have the guts to oppose them because they don't want to oppose the educational establishment and they don't want to sound like they're anti-student because that's what they do. The minute you say you want to bring an end to student loans, oh, you're against education, you're against the kids. No, I'm for the kids. I'm against the educational establishment ripping off the kids. And if we get the government out of it, that will happen.
I always try to stay positive on small business owner. Right? What's happening now, if something doesn't change quickly, I feel that we're in serious trouble and we could really see a collapse of our monetary system in this country.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that?
No, absolutely. There's no question. Our monetary system is in danger of imploding. Remember, we don't even have money anymore, right? We used to have, money was gold. The Constitution says gold is money, and up until 1971, it was. In 1971, if you had $35 in the bank, you had an ounce of gold. That's what you had. You had something real. You had something tangible. Now you don't have anything. You just have a piece of paper. And the problem is, now that we have money that's not backed by anything, the government there's no limit to how much it can create. And it can finance this huge government. But we are on the verge of a collapse because they are going to have to print so much of it to maintain the spending. Because I don't think our politicians have the guts to make the cuts necessary to save our currency. They're just going to print it. They're going to try to live up to all their promises. They're going to try to pay everybody all the benefits that they've promised, despite the fact that we as taxpayers don't have the money to pay for it. And so they're just going to print it as if there's no consequences. But there are consequences because they destroy the value of the money, and that's it. Prices go through the roof. I mean, if we thought it was expensive when oil was $4 a barrel, a gallon, wait till it's 10, wait till it's 20, wait till it's more. Wait till it's not just oil, wait till it's, milk, bread, wait till the price of everything is going out of control. That is how we all end up paying the price of all the bailouts and all the stimulus. We pay it. We pay it through debased money, through debased wages, through debased savings, through runaway inflation. And it's coming. If we don't do something to head it off, it is going to happen.
Yeah, I think within 10 years.
I think it's going to happen within the next Senate term. That's why I need to be there. Right? There's no one in the Senate right now that understands what's going on or what needs to be done. Somebody needs to set them straight and hold them accountable for the damage they've done in this country so they can get reelected. It has to stop. It has to end. And I can sit down there. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get there. I'm not going to try to get reelected. I'm not going to try to raise any money or I just got to educate enough people in Washington to get them to understand what they need to do and give them the confidence to do it. And I could use the filibuster. I can speak on national television on C-SPAN every day. If you guys think I can speak here, wait till you see me in the Senate. And I can do this for hours. I
can listen for hours.
And I will do it. I mean, I will get these guys one at a time. I will convince them what they need to do. And believe me, things are going to be getting worse the entire time I'm there. So people are going to be convinced. At some point, they realize that we're doing the wrong thing, we're down the wrong path. And hopefully, if I'm there and I can make enough noise, that I can have enough influence on the Republican Party, that I can have some influence on who's at the top of the ticket in 2012 when Barack Obama loses in a landslide. And I want to make sure that we get other people in Congress that understand and are willing to do the right thing, regardless of the political consequences.
I was reading that apart from the amount of money that Congress itself spends, the Federal Reserve in the past year, I think created, I don't know if it was 8 trillion or 12 trillion. I forgot which one of the two it was. And then I was reading today on a Drudge Report that China was thinking about unpegging their currency from the dollar and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm wondering how much longer can, let's say you go there and you're able to lower the amount of spending that Congress does, but still we still have the Federal Reserve Bank creating all this.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons that the Federal Reserve creates so much money is to monetize Congress's debt. So to the extent that Congress stops spending, the Fed won't have to create as much money because there won't be bonds that need to be bought. But one of the problems, what they did in the financial crisis, is the Federal Reserve in the last year purchased on the open market $1.5 trillion worth of crap from companies that would have failed if they didn't buy it, like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. And the reason these banks were able to make record profits this year and pay themselves record bonuses is because the Federal Reserve bought all that crap from them. If they hadn't done that, there wouldn't have been any bonuses. They would have all got pink slips. But now, all their bad decisions, and remember, as these bankers were accumulating all this debt and trading it and securitizing it, they made a lot of money. Wall Street made a lot of money in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. They should have given it all back because basically they never should have earned it in the first place because it was all a fraud. But the government made sure that they got to keep every penny, and now they're making even more because they got bailed out. But now the Federal Reserve owns all of this crap that they shouldn't own. And again, when I was on national television, I didn't want them to bail out a single Wall Street firm. And Congress was convinced that if we didn't bail these firms out, it would have been the Great Depression. It was wrong. It was all bull. It was propaganda. They were trying to save their own butts through their buddies in Washington, and they convinced our leaders who know nothing about economics and nothing about Wall Street that they had to do this. Meanwhile, Bush voted for it. McCain interrupted his campaign to do this bailouts and to let the Federal Reserve do that. And again, a lot of it is because